If it stops suddenly, that means I fell and I'm probably either dead or on the way to the hospital. No, it did not work. Because I don't quite know how that one would work. Hello everyone, welcome back to Maverick Mods. My name is Mark. My goal is to try and keep the survivors on the road. If you can't do that, take parts of one survivor, put it on another to keep it on the road. Today, all of my projects are kind of, I don't want to say in between, they're just kind of, I've been doing a lot of, well, things that sometimes aren't really camera worthy, for lack of a better term. However, I have been working on something for the last week and a half or so that some of you guys might be interested in, some of you might not, we'll see. So, grab your popcorn, let's get started. Guys, one of the things a painter, and keep in mind, I don't consider myself a painter, I consider myself a retired airline pilot with a better than average man cave. Okay, keeping that in mind, one of the things a painter always wants to have is his own paint booth. Over the years, whenever I've done a paint job, I've either begged or borrowed my way into somebody else's paint booth when it wasn't being used, you know, but that's just for the occasional job. I also have turned a two-car garage into a semi-quasi paint booth. It did okay, but you know, I can do better. So finally, I've got the space and the means. I really wish I could actually construct my own paint booth. That's not quite in the cards yet, but in the interim, I just picked this up. As it says on the box, this is a 26 by 15 by 10 inflatable paint booth. Picture this as basically a big bouncy castle. I got the biggest one I could afford. It comes with one of the two of those is an inflation blower. The other one is a ventilation blower. Now, and I'll explain a little bit into this as the paint booth is actually up. But I also got what's called, well, it's not labeled on the box. This is called an elephant's trunk. We'll be assembling that here shortly. And this is an exhaust blower right here. And these two are, well, in my opinion, are pretty critical to make these inflatable paint booths work the way a real paint booth is supposed to. So I'm going to unbox some of the blowers here real quick, and then we'll work on the tent itself. All right, so what we got here, this is a 750 watt, this is the ventilation blower. All of this came off of the Jungle website, so you know, it's pretty standard stuff. So that's basically just the blower and some tent stakes? Sure. Next box, if this is 950 watt, this is probably the inflation blower. There's that guy. And inside the box, more tent stakes. Okay, I guess if you're outside. I think I'd have a hard time with these old plastic jujabes trying to pound them into the concrete floor here. And the big guy over here, now this right here, plus some filters, is what comes with the paint booth itself. This is separate. And, all right, so I got a box inside a box. Oh, okay, oh, all right. That's the accordion hose, I guess. We'll look at that here in a minute. So this is the exhaust blower. The important thing for this is it's got to be explosion proof. The reason for that is you're actually using this to suck overspray and paint fumes out of the booth. So you wouldn't want paint fumes to go through an electric motor that causes sparks, because then you've got an afterburner. Last box to open up. This is actually the elephant's trunk. You know what? I'm going to set this up later. So I'm going to set this box aside for now until, well, until everything's kind of set up. All right, let's take a look at the actual bouncy castle itself. It comes in a little bag. Everything I've read online basically says once you actually open this thing out and inflate it, you're never going to get it back in this bag. I've got a plan for that. And I'd say it probably weighs 40 pounds, 45, 50 pounds maybe, something like that. And it comes, well, is this? Yeah, it comes with instructions. So I'm going to sit down with these for a minute, read this. So I kind of have, well, I really don't know what I'm doing, but at least I can pretend like I do know what I'm doing. Well, that's what it looks like out of the bag, so to speak. I think I have a plan. I'm just going to spread this thing out. I measured the floor the other day, and 26 by 15 is a pretty good chunk of this side of the shop. We're just going to find out just kind of exactly how it fits. You know, when I put that ceiling fan out, I didn't really pay much attention to the height. And so just for argument's sake, I measured it, and it's actually under just a hair, or I should say it's a hair over 10 feet, and the paint booth is 10 feet tall, so they say. However, I think I'm going to shut that fan off, just in case. So let's do a little time lapse of me looking like a fool unfolding this thing before I inflate it. Well, I think it's close enough. I mean, when it inflates, it's going to find its own shape anyway. Got the blower hooked up. Moment of truth. I don't know how long this is going to take, so I think I'll probably time lapse the inflation. Okay, note to self, the little blue one is for ventilation, not for inflation. The green one is for inflation. Let's try this again. All right, let's see if I cleared my fan. I did clear my fan. That's a good sign. Let's check out the inside. Okay. Plenty of room. These are the filters. Now, the second blower is supposed to blow air in from there through the booth and exhaust out these filters. Problem is that you need to suck the overspray out. So that elephant's trunk is going to go here, and it's going to kind of go on the outside of this point right here. Let's see. So this is the inside of the paint booth. Let me keep working on this, and we'll take a look at it again in a minute. Well, it takes up a big chunk of the shop, that's for sure. That's fully inflated. I'm going to go ahead and deflate this thing because, well, I'll explain why after I get it deflated when blowers are off and it's not quite as noisy. Well, yesterday you saw the paint booth inflated, but that's only half of the battle. The other half of the battle is if that blower loses power or you shut it off, that tent within a couple of minutes, 2 minutes or so, it deflates and it's going to fall onto whatever you just painted. Obviously not a good thing. Various guys that are using these have come up with different methods to kind of hold it up so you can turn the blower off. Here's mine. So I'm going to devise a trapeze system that hangs from the roof. It's going to involve some pulleys and ropes and kind of a triangle sort of arrangement, it'll make sense as I do it. First thing I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to go up into the rafters and actually hang my pulleys. And since it's not my building, I really don't like drilling holes and making things permanent. So this is my temporary setup here. So phase one of the trapeze system to hold the paint booth up. Now, I don't like heights and I don't like ladders. And so I'm gonna film this, but if it stops suddenly, that means I fell and I'm probably either dead or on my way to the hospital. So here we go. Here's my idea about holding the paint booth up when the blower isn't running. Okay, so here's the problem. Obviously, it's got to be suspended. I can do it either from the inside or the outside. The inside has got, well, I mean, that's a lot of structure on the inside, and I got to build a cage, basically. So my theory was, I've got a couple of pulleys up on the ceiling. That goes down to, I actually had to make a piece that's 3/4 PVC. I put a joint in it, yes I did. And my rope comes down to the center here. Now, the tent itself, or the bouncy castle, whatever you want to call it, has a set of D-rings on the sides. There's 6 of those, 3 on each side. 4 in the corners, 2 in the middle. But there's nothing in the middle. So what I did was I made a couple of straps, sewed them up, and yes, my sewing skills suck, and I'm actually kind of proud of that. Tied my bar to that so that this is going to hold up the center. Now, if they'd have put a set of straps or a set of D-rings, I wouldn't have had to do this, but since they didn't, this is going to hold the center of the tent up. Over here on the ends, they're going to tie to the D-rings. I've got to inflate the paint booth now to be able to get everything positioned and lined up. And the reason I used the PVC was, if I just tied to the D-rings, the whole thing would kind of come in sort of like a teepee, and I don't want that. I want to be able to hold the corners up as best I can. So that's why I've got the sort of rope, tackle, and pulley tripod system. Let me inflate this, see if it works. I've still got to tie the D-rings in, and well, like I said, we'll see if it works. All right, here we go. We're going to try and see if it works. This is probably turned out to be a monkey, you know, doing this thing with a football, but let's give it a try. Try and get you out of the noise a little bit. So the last piece of the puzzle I hadn't shown you yet, my PVC pipe should come basically straight out to just about, not quite, but just about level with these D-rings that are already in place on the paint booth itself. And there's one in the middle and one on each corner. I had to kind of go a little bit wonky on this one, because I didn't have a beam. It's a whole beam not in the right place thing. So I did the best I could there, and I've just kind of come outside, well, see if it works. Now, here's the biggie. When I deflate this, what's going to happen? So I'm going to turn the blower off. Alright, so I just turned the blower off, and if you hear a big ripping sound, it didn't work. So in this case, I'm leaving everything up. I'm just going to let it do its thing. I knew the front of it was going to collapse like that. The idea is I don't want it to collapse on the car. Oops. All right, well, I got to tie my ties better. I can tell that already. Okay, I don't think it worked very well. Let's see what it looks like inside. No, it did not work. Okay, well, plan B. I wasn't figuring on these sides coming in like that. Okay. Looks like I'm going to be building a little cage on the inside. Yay! We're inside. This would be Plan B, version 2.0 of holding the paint booth up. So what I did, basically built some uprights on each corner and in the center. And each one of these comes up and just kind of follows the contour of the paint booth itself. Of course, comes across and back down. I had to tie them together on the sides for two reasons. One, obviously for rigidity, but two, to hold up the sides, which was the sticking point before with the attempted trapeze setup. So this holds up the sides really well. And I didn't know how much I was going to need, whether I would need something, you know, in each kind of oblique corner. Turns out just a beam in the center did the trick, and it holds everything up really well. I actually held up the front portion here, which was kind of a sticking point, and just cantilevered a couple of beams there. And that's fine because the car will be more in this area, and that will be more paint mixing area, etc. over there. In order to keep this from becoming a permanent part of the shop, the entire inside structure can be disassembled. And I kind of sort of tested this. This whole thing can be taken apart, taken down, I should say, or put up in about an hour by one person. And the way I did that is up on the beams here, it's solid at this cantilever and at a portion of that cantilever. But the center beams can be bolted and unbolted right there. The side beams, same thing. They can be bolted and unbolted right here. And all the parts are labeled, like right here. All the parts are labeled so that I know exactly what goes where and in what orientation. And as you can see, it holds the tent up just fine. I'm going to do one last inflation on this, and we'll see how it looks inflated. All right, come back here with maybe, hopefully there's a little bit less noise. Here it is inflated, and I think it's going to work for me. Let's take a look at the last piece of the puzzle, and this is the inside of what they call the elephant's trunk or the elephant's snout or whatever the thing's called. So on the opposite side, I know it kind of fell down a little bit, but there's a set of filters here. There's like a outer filter and then this filter right here. The idea being that that blue thing up there, there's an additional blower that blows air through that is supposed to pressurize the inside of the bouncy castle. Problem is that that pressure is the only thing pushing out the overspray and things like that. It's not enough, and you wind up with this big fog inside of here, and it just is not very efficient. So this is supposed to take care of that. So we'll take a look at the outside of this here in a minute, but they give you just a metal frame and there's a filter inside of there. So I took this filter off and it Velcros to the outside, or it Velcros to this on the outside. Let's go take a look at the outside of it. The outside, like I said, it's that frame. It's got a made up, whatever you call it, cover Velcroed to the outside. It's got several exhaust vents. I've got this one tied off because I don't quite know how that one would work. This one here, again, these are, you know, they stick out a little bit. What I found the first time I used this was that with this blower going, if it was extended out a little bit, it would suck this sleeve in so much that it was actually restricting the airflow. So I've got it kind of curled up. Trying it this way, if anything now, I'm getting a little bit too much suction. So it's going to take a little bit to play with that. And I'm also going to work on kind of a more permanent mounting stand for this setup when I get the blower sorted out. Or excuse me, the sucker. Blower, sucker, that fan. It also the kit also gives you this hose. Still trying to integrate that. We'll see how it goes. But that is the Elephant's trunk, and its purpose is to pull the ogre spray out of the booth. I have tried it a little bit, just on a few little spot pieces. It does seem to work. It creates a lot of suction. All of the pieces of the puzzle are in place now. It's just a matter of figuring out how to make everything work together, and so that I've got a functional paint booth. Well, that's going to do it for this week, guys. Going to give the paint booth a try. In fact, Alex's Mustang is going to be the guinea pig. Try and work out some of the bugs. Got a couple of primer coats on that before we put actual color on it. That'll be a good way to kind of get the feel for the new paint booth. Bouncy castle, paint tent, whatever you want to call it. Certainly appreciate everybody tuning in. Thanks everybody for watching every week. Please like, share, subscribe, notify. Did I forget anything? I don't know. You guys know the drill. We'll see you next week. Everybody, have a great day.